Today I'm going to share 7 ways to simplify your declutters and make them easier. This first strategy is a little bit more philosophical. Don't worry, I'll get to more logistical nitty-gritty tactics in a few. And if you can get this philosophy stuck in your system, it can make a huge difference in how the declutters go for you. This first strategy is to create your dream. Basically, to create a clear picture in your mind of your dream or your goal for your home. What would living with less look like for you? What would an ideal home feel like for you? When you move around your space, what do you see? What do you notice? I know it sounds hokey, but I think doing some actual visualizations of what your home could be like and feel like can really help bolster your motivation and affect how you approach the declutters as you do them. Basically, in the past, I would look forward to leaving my home and going out. I would enjoy going out for a nice dinner at a new restaurant, or I'd enjoy the thought of going on vacation and traveling somewhere new. But why do we feel that way all the time? I think part of it is that we like to experience new things, but I think another part of it is that quite often our homes just aren't that pleasant to be in because we're not taking care of our homes, and ultimately it's because we have too much stuff and too much chaos and clutter adding to our stress. Every time we're in our space and we see stuff sitting around us, it's quietly screaming at us, take care of me, put me away, organize me, fix me, deal with me. When in an ideal world, we would come home and feel a sigh of relief. We'd feel like, oh, finally I'm back at my favorite place. This is where I want to be. Like, truly imagine if your home was somewhere that you loved being and that you just didn't want to leave. I think the most realistic way for us to get to that point is to declutter, because not all of us can go out and buy some big, beautiful house, but at least we can take the home we're currently in and declutter and make what we have feel like a very serene, pleasant place to be. And so I think if you take the time to truly imagine what that could feel like to you and how that would affect your mood and day-to-day how hard life is for you, you might be more motivated in the moment when you're going through a declutter to actually make the right calls, to make the changes and to declutter more. And also when you have that vision in mind, you're a little bit more excited to declutter. It doesn't feel quite so arduous because you're working towards something that you really envision. You see it as possible. There are times now that I've done some decluttering. Admittedly, I still want to do more, but as I've made some big changes, I more and more frequently have this feeling of, I love being at home. And it feels really good because it's also a space where I can invite friends or family over and spend quality time with them and enjoy myself and not feel overwhelmed and stressed out about it. But really quickly, before we get into the rest of these approaches, I want to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Unbound Merino. And the first thing I want to say is that I love working with Unbound Merino because wrapped into the sponsorship is essentially a life hack for how to make keeping your home a little bit tidier easier, and also how to travel more lightly, because basically Unbound Merino sells these beautiful pieces made of merino wool. And there's something that I think is kind of magical about merino wool, in that the fibers and the lanolin found in merino wool is naturally wrinkle resistant and odor resistant. Because it doesn't get smelly or wrinkly as quickly, you just don't have to wash it as frequently. Which means that you can also have a somewhat smaller wardrobe or capsule wardrobe because you can re-wear the same pieces far more easily. The merino wool also dries really quickly, so it's easy to wash when you do wash it, or if you're traveling and it gets wet. And it's also temperature regulating, so it keeps you cool on hot days, but keeps you warm when it's a little bit chilly out. And I know it's hard to believe, but you can literally wear these pieces for weeks without needing to wash them. I like that they have a range of options, including really comfy leggings. These leggings are kind of a must, in my opinion. But they also have a beautiful travel dress, and I really love their half-zip sweater that I wear constantly. Anyway, if you're interested, check out the link at the top of my description box below. Using that link is also another great way to support the channel. And thanks to Unbound Merino for working with me and helping support the channel. Anyway, let's get back to ways to simplify decluttering. A second strategy is to break a big job into pieces. And I feel like actually a lot of minimalists are against this idea. I know that Marie Kondo, for example, has you take everything in a category and put it in a pile and you need to go through it. And I get that. I do think that's a helpful, wonderful strategy that I sometimes use. But if you want to make decluttering a little bit easier on yourself and less overwhelming, and you're kind of intimidated to get started, I think just starting with a tiny little declutter or taking a big declutter and breaking it into pieces can make it a lot more approachable, and you can get more done gradually over time. Not all of us have the financial space or the luxury of spending a whole week just decluttering. A lot of us have jobs or other responsibilities, and so taking the declutters and turning them into bite-sized pieces can make it far more doable. Sometimes I'll do something like, I'm just gonna declutter this one little drawer today. Or if I can't go through my entire closet, I'm just gonna walk up to my wardrobe and eliminate 5 things. But those micro changes really add up over time and create a home that's far more pleasant to be in. A third strategy is again logistical, and it's to have a set, easy way of putting the items into categories to deal with later. So usually for me, that means having big containers that are right there, accessible to me, where I put each of the categories. Usually I declutter using 3 categories: keep, definitely eliminate, or maybes. And the maybes I'll often put into temporary storage, what I call gateway storage, that I'll return to later and declutter and eliminate if I haven't used those items. But by having a big receptacle, like a big bin or a big bag that I just can easily throw the items into when I'm decluttering, makes it so much easier. Have the big container at the ready, have the pile system in your mind ready, and also have a plan for how you're going to eliminate the items from your home. Because quite often the problem is you have a declutter pile, but you don't know what to do with it, and then you just keep things around. So make sure you have a plan and those big containers. A fourth strategy is to strategically associate a positive experience with decluttering. And how do you do that? You bundle things that you enjoy with the declutter. So first of all, you want to make sure you're in a good positive headspace when you're going into a declutter. So it's not like when you're hungry or tired or in a bad mood. Pick a time where you know you're going to be in a good headspace so that it's not going to be a miserable experience. Because if you only do it late at night when you're tired and hungry and spent, you will always think of decluttering as miserable, and that will make it harder on you. And then also sometimes I'll do something like listen to a podcast or listen to some fun, uplifting music while I declutter to make the process more pleasant. And then in addition to that, I will bundle the declutter, if it's a big one, with something fun. Like if I do a 2-hour declutter today, I get to order in for food tonight, or we get to go out to dinner tonight for fun, as a way to motivate myself and to be excited about the declutter, because I'm also excited about what's going to happen after. So making sure that you're associating a positive way of being and a good attitude with the experience of decluttering. Because as someone who is trained in cognitive behavioral strategies, in psychology, as a therapist in my sort of former career and life, I know what a big difference these slight behavioral tweaks can have in changing your behavior in the long run. If you don't think strategically about how you're changing the behavior, it's just going to make it that much harder for you to actually change. And you'll build it up in your mind as this hard, difficult thing. But if you're strategic about making it a pleasant experience, the whole process of it will feel a lot easier to you. And that's also where I think the idea of perception is reality comes into this. If you perceive it as this pleasant, doable thing, it will feel easier to you, and therefore it will be easier for you. A fifth strategy to make decluttering easier is to get help. So declutter alongside somebody. Get other people in your family on board to declutter with you. Or if there are aspects of it that you really hate that somebody else could easily do, recruit them. Like for me, quite often, once I have those big receptacles of garbage or giveaway, I will have my husband deal with it, and I'll just ask him ahead of time, hey, if I do a declutter, can you deal with the big bags after? He'll say yeah, and then that way it just makes it that much easier for me. Another strategy is to take before and after photos. And again, this is one of those perception is reality type of approaches where by changing your psychology around the declutter, it makes it feel more pleasant and easier for you. But I think that if you take a before picture of the chaos and the mess, and then take an after picture of what it looks like after, you can go back and forth and just marvel at the progress you're making, even if it's just a shelf or a drawer. Seeing that change in a tangible way is so satisfying. So again, you're associating this positive feeling and the sense of accomplishment with the process of decluttering, and you get yourself more excited about it and more excited to do more declutters in the future. For me, it really boosts that momentum and that motivation. Another strategy for making declutters easier is to label emotions and problematic thought traps as they happen as you declutter. Decluttering is so much more than just the logistics of getting rid of stuff. It really is an emotional, psychological journey we embark on, where we're sifting through our past and our past hopes and what we wanted for the future, and also past memories and past relationships. And it really can be an emotional process. But quite often, those emotions can lead us astray, and we can also have these automatic thoughts that come up that just aren't helpful to us. Things like, what if I need this later? Or if I were to declutter this item that was a gift, would that person feel hurt that I got rid of it? There are a lot of these unhelpful thoughts that just pop into our brains when we're decluttering that we've been socialized to think and that we've learned to think over and over again through a consumeristic culture. But if we can make the effort to be mindful in the moment while we're decluttering, and to notice the thoughts that we have and to label them as those problematic thoughts, then we can make a more informed decision based on our own values and where we want to be going, as opposed to acting on those transitory thoughts or emotions that are getting stuck in our head. So it's a very mindful approach, almost meditative, but if you can step outside of yourself and observe yourself and notice what you're experiencing in the moment and then act based on your long-term values and goals as opposed to those momentary feelings, you might not end up getting so wound up in those feelings, and you end up making better choices, which ultimately makes the entire process of decluttering much easier and faster. And I know I've technically probably talked about this idea before on this channel, but I want to repeat it because I think sometimes, again, we just slip into that autopilot. We slip into old ways of thinking, especially as we get further and further on the decluttering process. We forget to center ourselves and to take that little bit of extra effort to pay attention to what's happening internally. That is so important. Anyway, those were my strategies for simplifying decluttering and making it easier. If any of you have other ideas or tactics, let me know in the comments below. I'm always interested to think of new strategies because I'm still on this journey too. And if you want to try some Unbound Merino pieces, then use the link at the top of the description box. Once you go Merino wool, it's hard to go back. If you like this video, give it the thumbs up button. Great way to support the channel. And subscribe below if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.